In 1842, it wouldn't have been strange to hear the phrase, "Does your mother know you're out?" on the streets of London. It might have seemed like a weird question to suddenly ask, but in the Victorian era, this phrase was very well known as an insult, usually directed at very young men who had a bit of an ego on them and were seen acting foolishly or in an inappropriate manner. But there were other popular slang words with usages that don't nearly make as much sense in the modern day, or in their day, for that matter. A phrase that had brief popularity in the 19th century was, "What a shocking bad hat." Its usage was often taken quite literally. If someone's hat looked at all worse for wear, jokers or troublemakers were known to yank it off their head, drop the hat in a gutter, pick it back up with a stick, and give it to the victim, all while shouting, "What a shocking bad hat," in laughter. Aside from practical jokes though, the phrase was a way of calling someone untrustworthy or disreputable. The idiom had a few potential etymologies. Some cite a politician/hat maker who would subtly make bribes to potential voters. He would do this by approaching the potential voter whose hat had seen better days or was altogether poorly made and say, "What a shocking bad hat you have got. Call my warehouse, and you shall have a new one." His opponents caught wind of this, and when the hat maker politician made his speech on election day, his opponents took the opportunity to rile up the crowd with the chant, "What a shocking bad hat," to bring to mind his underhanded election methods. Others would prefer to suggest the origins came from the first Duke of Wellington. In the early 1830s, the Duke disagreed with calls to relax the voting requirements on the public, such as the need to have a certain amount of property before you can vote. The Duke of Wellington didn't get his way, and on looking at the MPs who were voted in by a more relaxed electorate, he remarked that he never saw so many shocking bad hats in his life. There are other earlier mentionings of this phrase, so the etymology is still obscure, but these two claims are the most popular, and for both claims there's the indication that someone is in some way untrustworthy or has a bad character, which has generally been seen as the most accepted meaning. However, sometimes the meaning of these slang phrases is a lot more ambiguous. At the height of its popularity, the idiom "there he/she goes with their eye out" confused even a lot of the London society who had heard it at the time. Generally, it has been taken to mean that the person is dressing to impress in hopes for a viable suitor, though the particulars of its meaning can vary from positive, that they look good, to morally negative, that they look indecent or desperate, which of course was used more when referring to a woman's sense of dress or decorum. The nonsensical element of the phrase seems to also link to this morally disapproving definition, suggesting the idea that all possible body parts are out on show, so much so that even their eye is out. Somewhat similar to the phrase "everything but the kitchen sink," but taken to the extreme. There's also possible links to the London prostitutes who would dress in a provocative manner and have their eye out for their next customer. Sometimes, a popular slang has no set meaning at all and could be used in pretty much any occasion. The word "quoz" was a popular exclamation dating all the way back to the late 1700s, most likely a bastardization of the French word quoi to mean what. But by the early 1800s, the general consensus was that the word, which believe it or not was often graffitied on windows and doors with chalk at the height of its popularity, had come to really mean nothing. If we really get down to the brass tacks, it was generally used in a mocking or incredulous manner, but other than that, its use was fair game. Whether you wanted to disagree in a debate, refuse someone's advances, or decline to pay for someone's tab at the alehouse, quoz was almost always the word of choice. It's funny looking back into history and finding all these obsolete phrases that used to have such popularity, and it will be interesting to see in 100 years' time what words from our current age will make future society say quoz.